Hello, my name is Ted Lynch. I'm a GA with the Transnational NGO Initiative. Today I'm undertaking a brief interview with Josephine Oguta, the Regional Governance Advisor for East and West Africa with World Vision International. Thank you for allowing us to interview today.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah. So you are here with us as one of our two TNGO visiting fellows doing kind of formative research on board governance. And this hopefully will be helpful for you in your role as Regional Governance Advisor with World Vision International. Mm-hmm. Can you explain for us a little bit what the role of Regional Governance Advisor means for World Vision International as a larger corporate or larger NGO?
Well, my role as Regional Governance Advisor, the role of Regional Governance Advisor, is part of the partnership global governance team. And we have various regions within World Vision. And World Vision, being a federal organization, has national offices that have boards of directors or advisory boards, or are in the process of trying to develop their program offices to have boards. And so the role of the Regional Governance Advisor is to develop national boards in their capacity, or the people we have already on the board, to meet the requirements of World Vision standards. We also do work with advisory councils to help them meet requirements to graduate from councils to full boards. And in program offices where we've worked long enough and we think there's legitimacy to set up boards, the role of the Regional Governance Advisor also comes in supporting those offices to begin coming up with the Friends of World Vision and ultimately setting up the board. So generally overlooking the governance of World Vision and then systematically working on a day-to-day basis to improve or address any issues that come up. Yes.
Very good. So like you said, on a day-to-day basis, you're based in Kenya, right?
Yes, I'm based at the regional office in Nairobi. I'm hosted there, although I'm a global center staff.
Global center staff.
Yes.
So what might a typical day look like for you, since you are communicating with the global staff, but also housed in a regional office?
Well, I would say in my nature of work, I have 4 types of typical days. The days when I'm working generally from Nairobi, and therefore maybe getting in touch with the national offices that I support in the governance, maybe conducting board evaluations if it's due time, probably end of the year, or following up on their governance plan. Sometimes if they've held meetings, having a look at the key decisions that were made, maybe areas of challenges that I could backstop or give advice to, and also mentoring the staff who are in the national office who actually directly support offices in system structures of governance. Then there's the other part of my work which involves review. And probably I could be part of the peer review team that's going to assess the overall governance performance of an office. We do that every 3 to 4 years in each office. And therefore, you'll be, as a governance advisor, maybe I'll be preparing an office to undergo review, while at the same time preparing to go and review another office similarly undergoing a review in another region. So that involves some travel. Then I've got the other component, which is capacity building. On a typical day where I come into an office and the board, we've invested that we are going to do board development, and therefore it would involve maybe attending a board meeting to observe how that board operates, maybe orienting senior management team on what governance means and healthy interface, and then running probably board development capacity building courses. So it requires almost being a trainer, a facilitator, while at the same time being a technical person on the back.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's 4 types of days, really.
Sounds like it takes a lot of coordination.
It does. It does take quite a lot of coordination and sensitivity. And sometimes it's as simple as looking at how somebody addresses an email. People sometimes underestimate that. In some cultures, you find someone could easily write to me, Josephine, and go straight to the point. Whereas some cultures you find, if I'm communicating to that office, they're very specific, dear Josephine, and they start with a salutation and then the issue. And a simple thing as responding in a similar way can break down walls. Sometimes if you respond in your own understanding of straight names and the issue, they can find you very cut. So just that diplomacy of understanding how people communicate also comes into real play there. Yeah.
Of course. So you have quite a few country offices within your region. But when you were saying that you would go to review boards in other regions, are those outside of the Africa region?
Yes. Usually, it's unlikely that I'll review a board in my own region. For example, just in December, I was in Sri Lanka. I was in Thailand. In March, I'm headed to Sri Lanka. And there are times when you could add to Australia or another region. So typically, I would not review a board in my own region. I'd review a board in my counterpart's region, and they would review a board in my region. So it's a way of learning. Also, if they're doing something great that I could transfer to my region, it's an opportunity to learn. Yes, yeah, and also exchange.
And so you've also worked in quite a few other large NGOs.
Yeah.
What knowledge, perspectives, or skills have you learned in World Vision International and coming from those other NGOs that you think would be helpful for some of our graduate students to learn?
Well, if someone is interested specifically, let's say in the area of governance, would that be what you're asking? Yes, if someone is interested in the area of governance, one thing that I realized was there was a presumption in most of the organizations that I've interacted with, that if you are a lawyer, you'd automatically be able to do governance, because in most countries, lawyers tend to be company secretaries automatically, and therefore you'd understand governance. However, the component of governance that the legal work gives you is for a specific, maybe contract management and a specific meeting, which is the annual general meeting. But the details of actual board governance that happens on a day-to-day, the people issue and all that is rarely addressed in the legal class. And therefore, I found that crossing over and political science was a good way of learning how humans relate, and that brought in a very interesting component to the work that I do. And also just doing the company secretarial course it resonated much better with the governance area that I do. And so what I'd say is, if someone is interested in the area of governance, if you're, let's say, a public policy student, public administration is pretty much governance. And it would be very easy to transfer those skills. However, you might then need to refine understanding of legislations, because inadvertently boards are legally set up structures, and the fiduciary role is governed under law. There's just no shortcut around it. And so it does help to have that, or have a staff member supporting who has that solid knowledge. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
I guess, finally, would you have any other career advice for students that are looking to work in NGOs, specifically maybe in Africa?
Oh, yes. Increasingly, I would say, unlike previously, where the Africa continent, people would come to give skills, increasingly the Africa continent education systems and capacity has changed. And I would say, if a student is interested in coming to Africa, come with the attitude of, I'm coming to learn, but I'm also coming to give. Because the attitude of, I'm always coming to give because there's nothing here, those playing grounds have actually changed. And I'd say you're actually much better off gaining, however basic, experience from your context, so that you have a route where you're drawing from. And when you come, you can do a comparative analysis and actually fill in the gaps that are pretty visible, rather than presumed gaps. And whether you get the experience through voluntary work, whichever way, experience is experience. And I'd always say, as long as you've got a bank of experience, it always pays off ahead. I know most students, sometimes you've had a hard life being a student, and the first thing you want is a salary. So doing much more voluntary work could be difficult. And of course, opportunities to work across continents is shrinking as more people are struggling for the same opportunities at the same level. But the idea of exchange, I don't think the world is becoming very globalized, and there's no limit to how much exchange of ideas and capacity that could happen in the continent. So I'd say gather some experience and then offer yourself for an exchange. And it would work pretty well, and it pays off. Yes.
Thank you. That's some great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you for having this interview with us. And I hope
Thank
the rest
you.
of your time here is enjoyable.
Sure. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.